Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Welcome. I am LORENMJ. Let's take a look at the schedule for today. I'm going to go through one feedback item, and then I want to cover some cybersecurity news. There's about 8 items that I have there. I do have a website tool of the week, but I do not have the how-to instructional at this point. We did it last week, but we're not going to be able to do it this week. Hopefully we'll correct that soon. Let's get started with the feedback. So the feedback I got so far is to just mention a thank you from the follow of Red5. He probably knows me from my gaming streaming, where I stream The Long Dark. I think that's how that came about. He also streams The Long Dark, so go ahead and give him a follow if you have a chance. He is RED, the number 5, and then VE. So, can I do a shout out? Don't know if I can do shout outs yet. Nope, I haven't got that command complete, but if you have an opportunity, let me just put his info in the chat here in case someone logs in, they can see that. So give him a follow, give him hello, and thank you, Red5, if you see this, for following. With that, let's move into the next one, which is the cybersecurity news. I have a handful of items to cover. The first is 10 ways to protect your Mac from malware and viruses. While virus outbreaks on the Macs are pretty rare, that's only because of a market saturation issue. That is to say that most people use Windows, so Windows is a platform that is highly in the scope of attack. So Macs are typically not, and so that obscurity though is not meant to keep you safe. That is not the idea. It's not safety through obscurity or security through obscurity. That is not a way to go. So these are 10 things that they list. The title of it is 10 Ways to Protect Your Mac from Malware and Viruses by Karen Haslam of Macworld. Among the items, that's the wrong one. Let me get there. Okay, here we go. Among the items is things that are pretty sensible, like a strong password. Of course, select a strong password and you log into your own device. Set up a lock screen if you don't have one. Set it up so that it locks after a few minutes, or whatever your policy is for your household or for your business. There's also a password manager that comes with Apple, so you can use that. I would also recommend, as they recommend, that you turn on Find My Mac. That will allow you to be able to find your device if it gets lost. It also helps Apple themselves as they try to find your device. There are also some privacy settings in the Mail app that you might want to take a look at. By default, I believe macOS limits what you can do with downloads that are of the application type. So to prevent you from just running something you download or automatically running it, that's in place. And you probably want to keep that in place, or go ahead and configure it yourself so that it doesn't just allow anything you download to be executed, especially if it's from an unknown source, or you're not the only user of your own device, which I always recommend. Be the only user of your own device. Get your children, even your adult children, or your spouse, another device to use. One person, one device. Also, keep it up to date, which you can do automatically. XProtect antivirus is also included with macOS, so it's already present. So make sure you don't disable it, or if you encounter something, you'll know what it was. Of course, they also recommend a VPN. I recommend a VPN only if you understand what you're doing and you select a good one. As far as a good one, you want to look for certain things. For example, those that don't track your data. Those that have good usage of the IP address ranges that are given, so that you look like you're coming from various places. That would be very helpful, especially if you can pick what location you would like to come from today. And I definitely recommend VPNs when you're on a public Wi-Fi, or you can't really trust the network you're on. First of all, why would you be operating on a network you can't trust? But if you find yourself on a coffee shop with a questionable questionable security, then definitely use a VPN. And you also want to configure those VPNs to tunnel everything. Even in that mode, you are not always completely protected 100%. So it's good to know what you're doing with a VPN. So that's what I would do. Yes, we've got the usuals. And it includes a bonus item of a lockdown mode, which you can use. There are also, each one of these items in this article, it details why you would want these items and know about them and how to use them, as well as, where to find them in your settings so that you can quickly turn them on and use them properly. So let's continue on with the next article. Story number 2. I don't necessarily care for the title, but we'll go with it. The title is The Easiest and Absolute Laziest Ways to Protect Your Personal Security. So this is, I kind of look at it as an advertisement for a podcast. However, it is not without merit. The reason I put it here is apparently the legend is that the person named B.J. Mendelsohn was playing Roblox with a niece when a stranger's voice came out of his iPad. After that creepy incident, he started a digital privacy podcast miniseries. This miniseries includes little bite-sized technical how-tos on dealing with some of these basic technical items that you can enable and how and why, of course. It is called, if you want to search for the podcast, it's called Stupid Sexy Privacy. Just little tidbits of things you could turn on and use. The article is an interview with this person who started this podcast. So it's in an interview presentation mode, and it includes things of like how to use search engines like DuckDuckGo, VPNs, for example, Signal, how to use the Signal app, and even tips to deal with certain things in your personal life, like after a breakup, what should you do? So that's interesting. An interesting interview, I thought. So it has its merit, as well as advertising a nice podcast that's out there helping people to stay more secure. I mean, why not? That sounds good. This third story, I find it's kind of interesting because my source is actually a GitHub repository, which, if you can imagine that. I thought this was interesting how it does this. Now, not everybody's going to be affected by this. In fact, the only people that would be affected by this is if they actually downloaded a particular product or bought this particular product, which is called a T95 Android TV box. So if you've purchased one of these, then take special note of this particular link. Something you want to look at, definitely. But for a general purpose article, I really liked this article because someone went to a lot of work, not only to educate the public about what they saw, but here is a person who does cybersecurity. They noticed a problem and they put out a fix for it. So I thought that was incredibly interesting and worthy of notification, broadcast, and just saying good for you. Just kudos. So what it is, it details a script that he created and it also details what happened. Apparently, as the story goes, he purchased one of these T95s, and it came pre-installed with infected malware. And it came this way from Amazon. So you can get these things from various retailers like AliExpress or Amazon. And it has things that you can look at it. You can see if you're infected with this, and you can also look at certain things and see how to disable it. Hopefully that fixes the problem. However, I would reach out to him to communicate. The person who put it out is called Desktop Echo. There are also other contributors here, so you might reach out to them if you encountered something like this, or if you're looking for help with something that's similar. Like, let's say you're in a similar boat where you purchase something and it seems to be infected, or you'd like to know more about it. I thought, what a great thing to do, to be able to help others with this type of problem. I found that so interesting. So I'll let you look at it and see what you think. I personally just thought that it deserved, if nothing else, a shout out for what great work. The next article. It is called A Police App Exposed Secret Details About Raids and Suspects by Dhruv Malhotra from Wired. I'm sure I messed that up. Malhotra. I'm totally sure that I messed that up. Well, what is it about? Well, it's about a particular app. First of all, sweeps. Sweeps are something that law enforcement does where they go out and they visit offenders that are on lists. Think maybe sex offender lists, where they go out, say, on a Halloween, and they go out and see who is actually responding to trick-or-treaters, because they are required by law to not do that, to not encourage the visitation of minors to their door. So the law enforcement in the area of that sex offender would conduct these sweeps. And the sweep is basically going and visiting, probably have children to be able to be at the door at first and then see if they open. So the app is called Sweep Wizard. And apparently there was a flaw in this app that if it was not configured in a certain way, it would by default allow the leakage of data. And the leakage of data included the offenders. It also included the times and dates of raids and even previous raids and previous sweeps. It could even, a person could easily use this to tip off future raiders, because you could see future raids as well. You could also see the identity of hundreds of officers and, of course, thousands of suspects. Even those that are just suspects, not necessarily committed a crime or under specific investigation, but, a suspect that maybe was listed, or a person of interest. Geographic coordinates of these homes, and of course the time and locations of raids, demographic, contact information, occasionally even the suspect's social security numbers. And I know a person may say, oh, well, too bad for them, they're a sex offender, right? But all people deserve a certain amount of privacy, and certainly we don't want to treat them in a way that we would not treat others. So I think this was definitely something that needed to be fixed. And what an embarrassment for a law enforcement agency to have lost the information on these people. Apparently, it was mostly located in California, but probably worth looking at whatever your department uses if you are in law enforcement. 5,770 suspects were affected, according to at the time of writing. The app is, of course, no longer available. However, the place that makes it apparently is Odin Intelligence. They advertise themselves as a company that develops these high-tech solutions for law enforcement. So they keep the communities better informed, more organized, and crime-free, etc., etc. And on the website, they claim to partner with other organizations like the International Association of Chiefs of Police, also other protective organizations. They also develop other products. So I would be very interested to see if those other products were affected, or if they deserve a look-through, or even an evaluation to see if they have been infected by the same type of problem or bug. Let's go with the next story, and this is a story we're all familiar with, right? It's the FAA outage. So I picked the BBC to do this one because it's nice to get an outside perspective on things, especially away from the United States, to see what we look like. So I found this to be just an interesting perspective. FAA outage. Officials say corrupt file caused grounding of flights, by looks like 3 authors: Antoinette Radford, Nadine Youssef, and Brandon Drennan, all from the BBC. The early investigations by the FAA suggested the glitch was caused by what they called, in quotes, a damaged database file. Also, it was the primary and the backups were affected. So this wasn't something they could just do a quick restore and come back. They did note that it is not a cyber attack. It's not related to that. It's simply a simple corruption of this file. The notice to air mission system provides real-time safety information to pilots about very important safety information like closed runways, equipment outages, and other potential hazards along flight routes. So that is an extremely important database to keep up and available. More than 11,000 flights in and out of the U.S. had been delayed, or at least 1,300 were canceled. President Joe Biden, of course, called for a full investigation, which I personally look forward to the results of that investigation. I'll try to find them. Sometimes those little things come out later and they're hidden, but I'll try to find that investigation once it's done. Hopefully there'll be an update to the article like this, and you'll see a follow-up. I look forward to it. So one thing about this is you think about the FAA and other, even the flight industry, commercial flying industry. You take a look at their, I can't help but look around when I'm doing my normal things in life and see what technology people are using. It's just my thing. It's what I do. So when you look at some of the terminals they use, and you know that it's connected to a server. You're looking at just a dumb terminal when you're sitting at like a gate, like a flight gate at an airport. You know that is a dumb terminal that's connected to some other system. So I was just looking at it. I'm like, oh, that's got to be very old. And I would bet that the technology they use behind the scenes is extremely old. So it could probably use an update. But think about how we do our flight industry, right? We make them operate on shoestring budgets, right? They have they don't have margin for error, right? So they're also highly regulated, which means they don't have the ability to operate like a new startup, or have the agility to be able to pivot and do other things, or to open a new department and fund that department and do audits. They just can't do that sort of thing because they're just an industry that is highly regulated and very old technology-wise. It'd be like looking at the space shuttle today. You would look around and say, well, this is, my MP3 player is more advanced than this. Well, technically not, right? Your MP3 player doesn't have the technology to reach, outer space. However, you're looking at two, very different things, different times they were developed. Also, the failover features were more advanced in the past, so your MP3 player is not going to have the backups, right? But these old systems would have backups. However, those backups apparently didn't work in this case. So it is worth a complete audit, technologically wise, of all of that entire vertical of flight, right? You wonder how they're flying at all. You wonder how anything arrives anywhere, not to mention on time. And the same goes for things like trains or even traffic, like normal automotive traffic, cameras and such. But enough on that. This one has been beaten to death, so definitely look forward to that investigation. The next story. This is called Ransomware Diaries, Volume 1. This is written by John DiMaggio at analyst1.com. I found this to be an interesting, detailed story of the ransomware gang called Lockbit. It includes their ascendancy, the methods and operations of that organization. It was an interesting study in how these gangs work and their connections with the standard, we'll call them air quotes, normal criminal gangs, how they're related, how they work. It was a interesting and very long and detailed story, multiple parts. It's very interesting, including some of the kind of odd things that they did to try to get information out of customers and such, like their prize campaigns and such. It's very, very interesting read, I thought, about this particular criminal organization, how they work. The next article is Circle CI Incident Report for January 4th, 2023 Security Incident by Ron Zuber at circleci.com. This is a very interesting article to me because this is how you respond to a cybersecurity attack or a mistake or a data leak or a breach or whatever. This is just about the best, open, honest, and complete response to a security incident that I have ever seen. It includes details of what they did, what happened, how they discovered it, including IP addresses, the timing of incidents, whatever attrition they could acquire, the summary of the affected customers. If you're a customer, here's a takeaway for you. Here's what to check. Here's what to look at. And finally, even at the bottom here, a link to go to a forum where you can continue the discussion. So what an outstanding way to respond to an incident by an organization. Things like this that happen, right? These things like this are just, some say inevitable, but I say you can have a zero accident organization. You can. I think that's possible. It's not a foregone conclusion that you will be hacked someday. That is not a foregone conclusion. I don't think that. However, when it does happen, here is a nice example, possibly blueprint, for what to do. This article, very, very good at what exactly happened and all of the communication that they can do. Like I said, even the IP addresses from the threat actors. Very interesting. Very interesting. In any case, I can't say enough about how good this was to read. That they could do a lessons learned so quickly and write in such a nice, detailed way where we can learn from it. The next article, this literally just came in just as I was starting up my broadcast today. So there's not much to it. However, it is pretty much an emergency type of update that you'll need to look at, or an exploit that is available for the control web panel of the CentOS. So if you're a Linux geek and you use CentOS, which many do, it's very similar to the Red Hat, but it's free. You'll definitely want to take a look at this. There is an exploit available for this, for the control web panel, and you definitely need to take a look at this if you are vulnerable to this. I would say that you need to read this, go through the proof of concept, come up with a test to be able to see if you are indeed infected, and to have steps you can do to mitigate it. So with that, that completes our news for the day. What next? Well, as I said, we don't have a how-to instructional at the moment. I will continue that. I will keep it on here, but for now, I'm going to have to leave that off. There is some other news, and this isn't a link I'm going to send you or anything of that nature. It's just a little bit of administrative type of information. There is a place called Infraguard that is an organization that works with the FBI. It's sort of a liaison between the FBI and the cybersecurity industry of information technology. It is how the FBI communicates things that they can communicate. So things like credible threats, detailed analysis from the FBI special agents. They even put together conferences and meetings, quick ad hoc conferences where you could address what is being done during major incidents or attacks. lessons learned for whatever is going on. So if something's big in the news and it's and the FBI is in on it, doing an investigation, then chances are they'll have something about it. They also had detailed things on credible threats. Any sort of credible threat is detailed. You'll be given exactly what to look for. So that InfraGard is a great organization, and it's by the FBI. So they do this as a product of what they normally do. However, they recently suffered a data breach, and because of that, they took down their portal. So industry professionals like me no longer have access to that. I did want to make you aware of it. I think it's an interesting tidbit of information. First of all, if they ever open it back up, I would definitely say that if you're in the industry or if you're a student, you definitely need to become familiar with the InfraGard portal and be able to log in. Hopefully they will bring it back up and then we'll be able to enjoy it again. But in any case, I just wanted to publicly say that I wish FBI the best. I hope they can bring this system back up. I hope they can finish their investigations and bring a closure back to it, such that they can make this unique and valuable resource available again, because it is something I truly appreciate. I didn't have any other news. That was it. No interesting reads this time. However, I do have a website tool of the week. This is an ad-free private search engine. It's been getting a lot of attention lately. I know it's been talked about on Bloomberg. I know John Battel's search blog has talked about it, as well as Jim Love, who's a Canadian tech podcaster. He talked about it. The CEO has been interviewed several times on good quality cybersecurity shows. The web engine I'm talking about is Neeva, Neeva.com, Neeva.com. They do require that you create an account. However, it is ad-free. Your information is never used, never sold. They do, of course, have standard higher pay-for tiers, but you can just use the free search. But you do need to create an account. I've been using this for, I'd say, about 4 or 5 months now as my main search engine. I used to use DuckDuckGo, but I have left that recently, and I've been using this exclusively, Neeva.com. So if you'd like to use it, feel free. I will post a link in the show notes, and so you can be able to become a member yourself and check it out for yourself. I'm always looking for good search engines or good tools that will help us to keep our privacy to our forefront and keep a high level of privacy. I do appreciate your attention, following. I don't know if you checked this out as a VOD on Twitch, if you're here presently, or if you're able to catch the copy of it that I put up on YouTube. But in any case, I appreciate a follow. I appreciate likes. I also appreciate comments if they're constructive. And if you have a bit of news that you'd like to share that I could talk about, then feel free to leave me email or contact me otherwise on my social media, which is listed on the screen. I do still maintain a Twitter. I also have moved to Mastodon as well. And for Mastodon, it's at LORENMJ at mastodon.sdf.org if you want to check me out there. And of course, Twitch and Prime and YouTube, which is LORENMJ. Thank you for attending my show, and we'll see you next time. With that, I will play it out.